Cezanne and the Apple Boy by Lawrence Ann Holt. Paul was playing with his friends when his mother brought him a letter. "Look," she said, "it's from your father." Paul had not seen his father in a long time. He knew that his father was an artist who lived far away in the countryside, and Paul had exactly the same name as his father. It was written on all of his school books. Paul Cezanne. Paul read the letter. "Dear Paul, I would like you to visit me. The countryside is beautiful. I think you are old enough to come on a painting expedition in the mountains. With love from your father, Paul Cezanne." Then something fell out of the envelope. It was a train ticket. His mother packed some food in a little bag. She put him on the train and kissed him goodbye. It was a long journey, and the motion of the train put Paul to sleep. When he woke up, he saw a mountain. Paul walked out of the station and into the little town. At last he found his father's house, but there was no one at home. "I'll tell you where to find him," said a lady, halfway up the mountain, painting crazy pictures. So Paul stepped onto the widening path which led out of town and into the mountains. It was very hot and the path was steep. In the shade of a tree, a donkey was munching apples. Someone was talking to himself nearby. Paul peeped around the corner. "Oh!" he shouted. High in a rocky path, he saw a man as big as a bear. He was making a wild painting. He had a shaggy beard and wild eyes. Paul ran back down the path. Paul, don't you remember? I am Paul Cezanne, the same as you. I am your father." Cezanne was as big as the mountain, but he spoke gently. "I am very pleased to see you," he said, "but I will not shake your hand. You see, I do not like anyone touching me." Then the mountain man packed up his paints and set off along the path. "We are going on a journey right to the top of the Blue Mountain," said Cezanne. "It's a long way, but if we follow the path, we won't get lost." When it grew dark, they built a fire by a little stream. "Tomorrow I will paint a picture of you," said Cezanne, "but you will have to sit as still as an apple." Then they fell asleep under the stars. "You are as round as a sweet little apple." They followed the winding path through a valley and into a dusty village. The people in the cafe stared at Cezanne and laughed at his pictures. "What have you painted today?" they snorted. "A crooked house or a wobbly tree?" "You see, Paul," his father sighed, "the world doesn't understand me, and I don't understand the world. That's why I spend my time in the mountains." "And that's why you are so poor, mountain man," laughed the people in the cafe. Cezanne stood up and walked toward the door. "Just a moment," said a voice behind them. "May I see the picture?" Paul turned around. A man with a bow tie and an expensive suit was staring at his painting. "This is extraordinary," he said. "I would like to take this picture back to my art gallery in the city. My name is Vollard. I am an art dealer, and I am always looking for exciting new work." "Well, we have more paintings than we can carry," said Cezanne. "Take as many as you like. Have this one, and this one." So Vollard left with a huge pile of paintings. Paul ran after him. "Please, Mr. Vollard," he whispered, "look after these paintings. I think they are very special. I think my father has invented a new kind of painting." Then Paul helped his father pack up his paints. As they walked out of the dusty village, they could hear the people laughing. "Ah, Paul," said Cezanne. Sometimes life is as hard as climbing a mountain. The people are right. My paintings are worth nothing at all. At last there was no money left. I should find a job, said Cezanne. The trouble is, I am only good at one thing. That is, painting. I know something else you're good at, said Paul quietly. You are good at being a father. In the distance, Paul saw a tiny man waving his arms and shouting. When he came closer, Paul could see the man was dressed in an expensive suit with a bow tie. It was Vollard. Quick, Paul, he panted. Where is your father? My father is working, said Paul. If you want to buy a painting, you will have to talk to me. Vollard laughed. Listen, he said. Everyone in Paris is talking about the mountain man. They say he has invented a new kind of painting. Of course, said Paul. My father is the greatest painter in the world. What's all this noise? Said Cezanne, coming around the corner. I'm trying to explain, said Vollard. I've sold every one of your paintings. All this money is for you. I want to buy more as many as you can paint. Cezanne stuffed the money in his pocket. Thank you very much, Mr. Vollard. I would like to shake your hand, but you see, I don't like anybody touching me. Now, if you will excuse me, Paul and I have to leave. We are nearly at the top of our mountain. Sometimes life is hard, said Cezanne, but you follow your path, and at last you reach the top, shouted Paul. Then Paul and his father walked back down the mountain. When they reached the dusty village, Paul was afraid that the people would laugh, but he held himself high. I'm the son of Mountain Man, he whispered. The summer was ending and the apple trees were golden brown. At last they reached a little town, and there was Cezanne's house near the station. Paul ran so fast he almost knocked over his mother, who was waiting to take him home. Oh, Paul, she said, I hardly recognized you. You have grown so tall. Well, Paul, said his father, we had a good expedition. I would like to shake your hand, but I will give you a big kiss instead, said Paul. When Paul got back to the city, he ran outside to see his friends. He didn't notice, but something fell from his pocket, a tiny apple seed. 10 years passed. Paul looked outside where the tiny seed had grown into an apple tree which blossomed in the spring. He thought of his father, Paul Cezanne, following his path, high on the blue mountain. He had become a successful art dealer like Vollard. He sold his father's paintings all over the world, and people paid millions of dollars for the paintings of mountains, crooked houses, and piles of apples on wobbly tables.
Paul Cezanne, born in 1839, died in 1906. He spent much of his life in the beautiful countryside of Provence, under the shadow of Mount Saint-Victoire. He took long, lonely expeditions with his donkey, sleeping in barns or under the stars. Cezanne was a huge, shy man with a phobia about being touched, but he was totally devoted to two things, his art and his son, also called Paul, who was indeed the apple of his eye. Young Paul had a far better business sense than his father and later became his official agent. Cezanne painted several images of the boy over the years, including the amazing Mardi Gras series. The family was often apart because Paul's mother preferred life in Paris. The story takes place in 1886, when Paul visited his father. At that time, Cezanne painted some of his finest works and invented a new method of simplifying shapes into cones, cylinders, and spheres. The technique would later become known as Cubism. The Cezanne family were ostracized in the town. Ironically, just 50 miles away in Arles, an equally troubled genius, Vincent van Gogh, was also pelted by stones in the street. Thanks mainly to Vollard, who pioneered his work in Paris, Cezanne became a rich man. In spite of his success, he remained reclusive and frugal. He built a small studio just outside where he worked quietly for the rest of his days. Cezanne revolutionized painting by struggling along the steep path into modern art. Picasso and Braque revered him, and Matisse described him as a father of us all. If you go to Provence, you can visit the beautiful studio, his house in Gardez. Visitors can walk under pure blue skies by houses like terracotta boxes and always see in the background the magnificent silhouette of Cezanne's beloved mountain.